Orlando Brown Jr. is expected to sign with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Darius Slay going back to Philadelphia.
New England has agreed to terms with tight end Mike Gesicki.
Mariota finally an Eagle. Harrison Smith staying in the Minnesota Vikings defense. Jonah Williams has requested a trade.
What is it about Coach McDaniel that's intriguing to you?
He a little weird.
Top of the morning to ya. It's more than somewhere. It's around the NFL. From the Chris Whistling podcast studio, I'm Dan Hanzus, joined by the lads, Gregg, Rosenthal, and I, Marc Sessler. And it's me hope that we are a great way from the hills of the cemetery, but if the Lord does decide that it is our time, it's good to have a grave digger, boys.
Amazing.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
How have you celebrated? You know, what are you doing?
I will be. My mother's side of the family is Irish, and we will be having some Guinness after this, throwing some cornhole, which is not an Irish activity, but we're going to have some fun in the front yard with some neighbors and enjoy it. How about you guys?
I mean, I left my abode and noticed that there was already a string of venues overflowing at like 6 a.m. with, a variety of individuals drinking their green beer. And I thought, well, I'm going to go do the work part of this day, and then I might go see how that figures out later. Why not?
It's definitely the holiday. I think I feel the difference of living in New York, which I did for 10 years, and here the most. But my parents are coming to town tonight, so that we'll really tie
Very
one
cool.
off. Rosenthal's when they get here together.
I love that. You're going to have a pint of Guinness, a tall one?
I mean, they're getting rather late. It'll be fighting that LAX traffic.
Man, I would love to do a live show in Ireland, and that is a goal, a personal goal of mine that we can get there. We have a great fan base over on the Emerald Isle. I think I've shared some memories on the show of my trip to Ireland as a teenager. When I went to the Waterford Crystal Factory and they told everybody, "Oh, this is the Super Bowl trophy." And I was like, no, it's not, because it was really actually the NCAA championship trophy, but it was cute. They didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And then I think about this bus that we rode up and down the countryside from north to south. And it was piloted by this very ruggedly handsome older gentleman named Tommy O'Reilly. And we all kind of fell in love with him because he had that charm that you're looking for from your Irish tour bus. And I'll never forget what he said at the end of the trip. We all were just melting in his hands at that point, and he went, "All right, it's time. I have to return to me small wife and me large family." And we were like, "Oh, Irish people are the best."
Oh my God. That's his true identity, you believe?
Tommy O'Reilly?
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been like Herb Solowitz or
right,
something, but he probably was
the whole
Tommy
thing
O'Reilly.
was possibly a ruse, but no, it sounds authentic.
All right, so let's get to the National Football League matters. This is our 4th podcast of the week. I believe it's our 8th show of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's for a reason, right, Marc? This is a big period in the calendar.
These are the weeks when you dig in, and that's why you work on St. Patrick's Day. And I think we typically work on every holiday, and we're continuing that effort today.
Do you remember last St. Patrick's Day, what we were doing on the show?
Little Watson bump.
I do.
It was the day
I do. Well, we had
Deshaun Watson.
We also
D-Day.
essentially, we had done another show, and then we left to be free. And then it was like all hands on deck. We have to talk about this guy again for the 14th time.
Lakeisha and I were sitting in a bar in El Segundo, and then a text came over the wire that it had gone down, Watson to Browns, and we did a 30-minute podcast that was our most listened to show of all time in the history of the podcast.
A dark corner.
So do we want him just to keep getting traded and moved around? Would that help us ultimately? I don't know.
Let's go. Let's get a Lamar Jackson trade later today to ruin the rest of our day.
All right, so we're going to go through all the news, and we will, before we sign off, now that free agency is really settling in, a lot of transactions. How many guys are left, Gregg, in the top 20 or so of your original 101?
I believe there are only 4 players in the top 25. And that's just from Monday. If you went back to the original one where it's Geno and Lamar and whatnot, it would be like an even lower number, 4 of the top 40.
Who are the 4, just out of curiosity?
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, still out there. Odell. who supposedly wants $20 million a year. I think that explains why he's not finding. Bobby Wagner, who was pointed out to me, waited a long time last year to sign. Maybe not in a hurry. Wants to figure out which.
There are
which
whispers
team.
that he could return to Seattle.
Seattle.
Also, Dallas is
Dallas
in
has
that
talked to
mix.
him. I think those are probably the two most likely. And then Dalton Schultz. No love for Dalton Schultz out there.
You know why? Loaded tight end draft class. I wonder if that's hurting his market.
Yeah. I may mention Dalton Schultz later in the show.
Oh, stick a pin in it because we're going to share some. It's a segment, Gravedigger, that I call sensible transactions for those with a refined positional palate. So it's not just willy-nilly.
Right. Throwing darts. No.
We've surveyed the landscape, and we're going to try to match up some players to teams.
Only something like 33 of the 101 since Monday even are available. I mean, the NFL does not wait around anymore. It's over quick.
All right, let's get to the big news that broke late Wednesday. The Bengals made a big move on their offensive line, signing left tackle Orlando Brown, formerly of the Chiefs. 4 years, $64 million, a major move for the team, and he has blocked Brown for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Mahomes in Kansas City, and now he's going to take over as the left tackle. This is one of those domino moves because the left tackle previously in Cincinnati was Jonah Williams, who he thought, oh, maybe they'll kick him to the right side. La'el Collins gets traded or released, and it works that way. Well, then Jonah Williams comes out, Gregg, and says, well, get me out of here. I'm a left tackle. So we'll see if there's a move.
These tackles really want to play left tackle. It's like the sexy premier position.
Cha-ching.
I guess that's a big part of it because Jonah Williams before the draft said, I do not want to move to guard. I only want to be drafted by a team that's going to take me as a left tackle. The Bengals ended up doing that. Orlando Brown's the same way, where he did not want to play right tackle. He wanted to find a team that would play him there. I don't think Jonah Williams is going to have any trade market. He's due $12.6 million guaranteed this year. He's coming off a dislocated kneecap and a bad year. So I think he might end up battling for that right tackle spot in the end because he might not have a choice. They're talking about keeping La'el Collins and Williams and just having depth, which, considering all the injuries, makes some sense. I love the move. I love the Bengals not standing pat, and their offensive line was better last year, but it wasn't amazing, certainly not at left tackle. And I like that they found pretty good value, too, with the price tag.
Yeah, the contract, I love it for Cincinnati. And it's like you knew we are looking at big money for Joe Burrow, for Jamar Chase, for T. Higgins, but I love them pouring more money into the line because as much as they tried to do that last year, we saw the chaos that unfurled towards the end of the campaign when you lost a bunch of guys. So it's like if you want to keep La'el Collins, if you want to keep Orlando Brown, if Jonah Williams is untradeable, why not stack player on top of player and basically not allow for that to happen again?
You need depth, yes.
They really, this contract, I'm a little surprised they got him for this. I mean, he turned down a much bigger offer, a longer 6-year deal from the Chiefs. I wonder how he feels about all this.
Well, at least he has an agent because agents are infallible. They can't ever lose.
I was simply setting the table for this scenario.
He set it up, and Gregg knocked it down.
I'm just saying, the Chiefs, I think the offer was 5 for $91 last year. It's very guaranteed and a little bit front-loaded where it's really a 3-year, $50 million deal. But basically the same type of deal Nate Solder got for the Giants about 5 years ago. So a little surprising.
Are you going, in the interest of fairness as a journalist, are you going to, when there are deals that seem player-friendly, you're going to point out that the agent did a good job?
When they're player-friendly. Oh, I mean, I think I don't plan to be fair, no.
Okay.
I mean, but the guys that are out there now.
That's a drop.
The guys that are out there now, like a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, for the most part, or as Schultz, it's because they don't have the value that their expectations were. And so I think Orlando Brown probably had to pivot
Put Odell in that
off what
class.
his expectations were, but he did quite well in the end.
This from Seth Walder, who's a good follow. He's with ESPN in their analytics department. Jonah Williams, FYI, he's 25 years old, left tackle that has played for some big teams, but his pass block win rate last season amongst tackles who qualified, 55th of 64. His run block win rate, well, at least he's good at that now, 44th of 64. So this is a potential big upgrade here for Cincinnati, and we were just talking about it on our last show. It's like, hey, come on, Bengals. Let's get going here. Let's do something. This is a big move, and it makes them potentially a lot better at really a vital spot considering the quarterback.
It felt like a lot of people were leaving Cincinnati, but where they stand right now, they've got their entire coaching staff coming back. You could have lost both coordinators. That was in the mix. They didn't. And 21 of 25 starters, and one of the new faces is Orlando Brown.
That's a good point, Marc. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, there was talk about Higgins leaving. He's not leaving. Tyler Boyd, he hasn't left yet. Joe Mixon, I'm still waiting for that to possibly happen, but Samaje Perine's gone, and maybe they're going to keep Mixon after all. La'el Collins, they did re-sign Jermaine Pratt. They need help in the secondary, so they have issues, but I really love this move, especially because I think it's going to help their ground game too. I mean, Orlando Brown, the rep on him is good enough pass blocker. Played really well in the Chiefs championship run. I think at the fans were upset. Some of the talk about them in the coaching staff maybe a little upset with Brown's play first half of the year. Awesome down the stretch, and I think they'll be able to run the ball better with him.
And what does this mean for the Chiefs?
Well, they've got Jawan Taylor. They gave him big money. The talk is that he's going to play left tackle. I mean, he got possibly a better contract than Orlando Brown, which is a little surprising. I think he gets $60 million in his first 3 years, $40 in the first 2. But there is still this buzz that they might be in on Laramie Tunsil. And my God, if they find a way to afford Laramie Tunsil,
right,
they'll find a way.
So Jawan Taylor's at right tackle, Tunsil's at left. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's KC's time to make a move because the AFC, as we're talking about, especially now you're going to have Rodgers entering the picture with the Jets. This is a really competitive conference. They lost Juan Thornhill, was an important part of their secondary. Now they lose their left tackle.
Lost Juju. I mean, they need some things.
Yeah, they lost both tackles too. Andrew Wiley left. They do have Lucas Niang, who is a third-round pick who's played for them, who I think they are probably looking at Taylor replaces Brown, and they'll survive if they don't have to pick up a big name. But man, that would be amazing if they got Tunsil.
In other news, the defending NFC champion Eagles. It looked like Darius Slay was on his way out of town. It even was reported that was what was going on a couple days back.
He went on to the top 101 in the top 20, and I don't know if he ever technically was a free agent. So.
Well, it all ends with him sticking with the Eagles on a 2-year, $42 million extension through 2025. So he stays there, and now you have Slay, Bradbury together moving forward. Strong back end.
Yeah, you also retain Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. We're a week removed. I think Rashad Penny, if he stays healthy, is an upgrade over Miles Sanders and could be in for a monster season in that offense. So Howie Roseman, the Eagles, they always find a way. And, there must be... These are players that obviously we talked about the Nick Sirianni experience in that locker room, the reason the players responded to him. It's when you get guys coming back like this, it just tells me they believe in what's happening entirely, and why shouldn't they? But you essentially are running it back. It could have been a massive sea change for a new defensive coordinator, Sean Desai. Instead, he's got a lot of the same faces, and they do run similar elements to last year's defense.
And you have 2 first-round picks, which is nice.
You have the number 10 overall pick.
Gardner Johnson is the one to see if they bring him back. Then it really feels like everyone's coming back. And it sounds to me like it's Eagles or Broncos, which led by Sean Payton. Gardner Johnson's old coach, so he didn't have a problem with Gardner Johnson. At one point in free agency, and this is dangerous, the socials, Gardner Johnson just followed 9 or 10 different Broncos and the Broncos organization, and everyone got all excited. But he's still unsigned.
Toughie.
Still unsigned.
That's a breadcrumb, though.
I mean, yeah, I think he thought he was going, maybe. I don't know.
I'm looking at... Because everybody loves Penny's potential. I'm just looking. He's started 18 games in the last, appeared in 18 games in the last 3 years.
They brought Scott back, Boston Scott. Kenny Gainwell played more snaps in the Super Bowl and played quite well throughout those playoffs.
It's a good backfield.
Than Miles Sanders. So I think Gainwell is kind of their 1A or 1B, and I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in someone too.
That was. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Give me the Bay Street All-Stars, or wherever the hell that is. I'm just disappointed that it's on in New York City, doesn't have verses, but then I got an idea. So I love challenging our listeners because they're very musically inclined, many of them.
Well, some of them. But because they're a large pool to pick from, it seems like all of them. But
I'm not saying
certainly not
90% of our listeners are musically inclined. but like 5% are, and we have a lot of listeners.
Right, that's
We're very lucky.
4,000 people. That's
exactly
right.
Sessler taking a shot at like Fred sitting in his basement. He's
I
like,
think
yeah,
you know,
Fred's a bum.
Unless you're a child with
Totally,
false dreams, you know if you're not
After
musically
Tommy
inclined.
O'Reilly took a shot from the book depository, now you got Fred taking heat.
I mean, I'm just sitting around talking about Wet and Whistle all over town. I like our musicians.
Justin Graver, can we provide our listeners access to this song in some way and then let them build out some verses, maybe a bridge, getting back to the chorus? Give
I
them a
don't
chance.
see why not. Let's see what we can do.
All right.
I'll post something.
First things first, they need to have the raw music to
Right.
work off.
Right.
All right. That's a fun little project. Drop that one in the laps of those listeners.
It did really bother you that there were no
I felt it was a missed
any
opportunity.
verses, really. That's just the chorus.
The whole track is only 1 minute, 12 seconds. So challenge to the listeners. Let's see what you can do.
Right. It's basically, here's the skeleton. Do something with it.
Right.
Also, I was thinking, why don't we have the listeners send in more Colleen Wolfe songs? Open it up to, the ATN podcast at Gmail?
Maybe we should have
Absolutely.
another song competition. Patrick
Claybon
has a
needs a
song.
theme song.
Yep, get on that.
My
Get on
only
that,
note
please.
to all the listeners out there making music for us is you got to make your own music. You can't steal an instrumental bed off the
no
internet
mixtapes out
somewhere.
there.
We can't run those. But if you make your own music and you submit us,
Copyright
that'll
laws.
be awesome.
Angry lawyers.
Exactly. Just follow the copyright laws and we'll be all good.
All right. The Giants signed wide receiver Paris Campbell, formerly of the Colts, 1 year, $3 million. You get up to $7 million if he hits a bunch of incentives. He had a pretty nice season for the Colts, which is significant considering how terrible the Colts were last year, totaling 63 catches for 623 yards and 3 touchdowns. That wasn't the only move the Giants made. They bring back Darius Slayton, who's flashed as a wide receiver for them. These aren't big-time names. It does feel like, Mark, maybe they, giving Danny Dimes a true number one with Darren Waller there. Now we're cooking. But it's a pretty good crew with Saquon, of course, back in the fold.
Yeah, they sit out there as like maybe
it's a decent crew.
Yeah, but they're missing like that guy that maybe you'd go trade for, which I'm not sure who that would be right now. But I think this is the Giants want to get faster in general, I think, at that position. Paris Campbell runs a 4.31 40, did at the Combine. He is a slot guy, but they have Wan'Dale Robinson as well, so there's a little bit of redundancy
They
there.
also have Sterling Shepard. I mean, they have a lot of guys, and they're going to see who works. Isaiah Hodgins is there. These moves spelled out to me, plus the reporting in New York that like they are not going to be in on OBJ. Period. They're not going to be spending that much on receivers. The Jets, actually, according to Diana Rossini, have been in contact with OBJ.
Well, it was demanded of them.
We would assume that at this point.
It was a demand made by the incoming quarterback that he must be on the team.
Why not call him up and see what he has to say?
He would be fine.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't want him.
I do think it's amazing after all the years we've done the show that you have to suddenly deal with the foibles and the ups and downs of Aaron Rodgers' personality, and you get Odell. It feels and 7 primetime games.
I don't need Odell Beckham.
What are we talking about here? I don't have demands.
I don't really need Odell Beckham and Aaron Rodgers on this team.
Right.
I'm just going to put out there that's my personal.
You may not get what you need, but you may get it.
Right.
Alan Lazard, great. Keep Elijah Moore on the team. Do not send Elijah Moore to Green Bay.
Could see that happening.
Don't do that.
I think they have to. The Giants use their first round pick on a receiver, though. It's like you're really going to trot out this group.
Something's coming, I think.
And that's fine. They're at a spot in the draft, number 25. It's not a great receiver class, but there's probably like a 4 or 5 pack of guys people like, depending on which flavor you like, who are all probably going to go in the 20 or 18 to 32 area. So that feels like it. Because counting on Darren Waller to be your number one, it feels like
no, and I also like that Kadarius Toney trade to me just stands out as one of the. They've been a pretty good team in terms of, I think, under Shane, like building the roster. That to me never really worked. They couldn't get along with him.
All right, let's pause right here and take a break. We'll be right back. In other news, Matthew Stafford still makes sense to me and others that he might be traded somewhere to a team that's looking to win a Super Bowl, which doesn't feel like the Rams right now. However, the money tells us more and more that maybe he's not going anywhere because Thursday was a deadline day connected to his contract. And since he is on the roster still on Friday, $57 million fully guaranteed. His $31 million base salary in 24, also a $26 million option bonus. Now must be exercised. It's a lot of cheddar for a guy coming off a spinal contusion and an elbow injury and entering his late 30s. But this is part of the bill coming due for the Rams.
He's locked in, but the bill coming due is largely the bill where they ordered all the meals last year. Like there's an idea that this is all coming from these moves they made. No, they signed Kupp, Stafford, and Donald in 2022. And they signed them basically knowing they're going to have them 3 more years or else. And yeah, Stafford will be turning 37 by the end of this deal. But if they were to trade him, I just because this is funny. If they were to trade him for some reason right now, they would have
$1 trillion dead
They would take
cap
a
hit.
$54 million. Not even just the dead money would be $74 million. And they would have $54 million less available. So I think we can rule out the trade. If it was going to happen, and I did actually ask around a little bit, if there was any chance for it, it would have to happen before this. The money's in his bank account.
This basically ended it. I think there was a chance that if someone really wanted him, you could move him before today, and we'd be in a different situation.
He would have been a perfectly sensible Jet pivot if Rodgers last Friday, instead of saying, Jets, I want to play with you, I don't want to play with you, or I'm going to retire. That would have made a lot of sense, and the next 6 days would have been very interesting. Didn't happen, and I don't see a natural dancing partner right now anyway.
I've been looking up down the list. I don't either. I think where I really liked it, and they can't do this unless they want to take that. You would get that. It'd be $18.5 million dead money over this season and the next 3. If you could move him for a really high ransom price in August, if you lost a quarterback, I kept saying that with Jimmy G last year, but it's if someone got super desperate and they were we are a Super Bowl team, you could sell Matthew Stafford as a concept and get something in back. I mean, they are in rebuild mode. They're just not moving Matthew Stafford because
I liked it when you said rebuild. Why'd you move away from it?
I think it depends where it's not intentionally, just where it comes in the sentence.
But it was so nice when you said rebuild.
I'll focus on that from here on out. I'll try to correct that.
Sorry, go ahead. You want to finish that?
No, I'm kind of I think it's I think the Rams want to move on from all these dudes in a way and cut it down even deeper. They just can't.
Sometimes the bit and the end of the take end up matching up
symmetry
perfectly.
You know who else is looking to move on? The Vikings they seem like they're done with Dalvin Cook. They re-signed running back Alexander Madison to a 2-year, $7 million contract. There's been a lot of reporting around from people that cover the Vikings that Minnesota would be open to moving Cook off the roster, potentially via release, but he has a shoulder surgery that was complicating things. But anyway, the Pellraiser, I said the Pellraiser. Where's the Pellraiser? Where's he based?
Minnesota, I believe, is where he's been. Spent a lot of his time.
That's an issue for us as well. It's not like he's walking around the NFL Network offices where we could, come up to him at the water cooler and be like, yo.
We got your nickname. Do you want to hear what it is?
Major branding opportunity that we are literally doing the legwork on your behalf.
Right. It is impossible to communicate with people who aren't face-to-face these days.
No. Can't do it. Impossible. No technological advancements were made. Anyway, Pellraiser reported about the Madison deal, and now we'll find out, Gregg, if Dalvin Cook is indeed heading. The Vikings are in transition. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's why more news is coming. The deluge of daily podcasts and a huge waterfall is over. But the Vikings are one team. I don't know what else is coming because I think a Cook release is coming. We know Harrison Smith's going to stay. There was a little bit of a surprise, so they did a nice job.
Did he take a haircut?
He did. He did take a pay cut. Adam Thielen's a free agent, so he's expected to leave. But there's some weird things bubbling here. Darius Smith wanted out. He's still there. Marcus Davenport, which was widely reported as signing with the Vikings, was not present with the rest of the free agents as they introduced him in Minnesota. So if you go to ourlads.com, he's on the depth chart. But officially, he is not on the Vikings, and there's some talk of maybe they have to make another move to make room for one Davenport, or maybe it's one of those moves that changes as the week changes. It seems like they are one of the few teams that are really so close to the cap that every move has to have an accompanying move with it.
Harrison Smith said there was reporting that he stayed out. He took a haircut because he was genuinely intrigued with Brian Flores and what he brings. He's also been there since 2012. He probably has like kids in school. Who knows? Could be
Give me a damn statue.
Yeah.
You know,
I want a damn statue.
I don't want the statue
That's
for
his quote.
Harrison Smith.
maybe he also noticed the NFLPA, that top 32 rankings of team facilities and whatnot. Vikings, number 1 on the list.
Boom.
One of the things people liked was all the free food. They, I think that was pretty common, was free food, but the facilities were very nice. But Byron Murphy, who came from Arizona, signed there.
These guys are millionaires.
I know, but it does make a difference. You just
The tuna fish sandwich is free, so I am taking a haircut to stay with the Vikings.
I always just assume NFL cafeterias provided
right.
all food
it's
for
more,
free.
It's just like a
nutrition.
pain. You got to go to the computer station. You got to swipe the card, and that. To that point, Byron Murphy arrived from Arizona today, and they asked him about everything, and he said, "Well, it's like, and now it's all you can eat." He was like so happy living life that in Arizona he would have to pay for his lunch, but here, all you can eat.
That's dark. Elsewhere in the NFC North, the Bears entered free agency with a ton of money. They're spending it. They signed Donta Foreman, P.J. Walker, and Bobby Tonyan, as they keep spending, Mark.
I like Tonyan paired with Cole Kmet. You suddenly have DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Donta Foreman, Khalil Herbert. Like, this is suddenly, and the Bears just went and did it. There are pieces around Justin Fields, and they went and got the number 1 wideout when there may not be one in the draft that fits them.
Andrew Billings was another defensive tackle who'll be a rotation guy for them. I'm just like counting the numbers. They've signed the most people and the most potential starters.
Got to be them and the Falcons,
you could
right?
count 5 or 6, and it was important, I think, to get P.J. Walker in the building because now you have the chance to bring back the greatest play of 2022, P.J. Walker to DJ Moore. They traveled to Chicago together.
Oh, my God, you loved that play so much. Do you have that? That would be a big ask.
Not handy.
If you're going to cite the play, Greg, let's
mean,
get it. Let's listen to it.
Hey,
Send me
I'm
a
a jazz
message ahead of
artist.
time.
I'm just making this up as I go along. Wasn't planning
I mean, I
this
can
out.
definitely
Did you just
insert
call
it.
yourself a jazz artist?
I can put it in the show and post, and no one would ever know.
Right,
No,
stitch it in
how
there.
about now? We're going to leave all this in, and then here is the play.
Yeah.
3-man rush, takes the snap, drops back, rolls to his left. He's flushed, loads up, airs it deep downfield for DJ Moore. Behind his man. Moore makes it down. He caught the ball. DJ Moore caught the ball.
How did that happen?
Oh, my goodness. Touchdown, Carolina. This is amazing.
Jazzman.
Great job, Gravedigger.
It was a great play. I remember that was a memorable moment from the season. How in love you were with that play, which was
me and
a
Patrick
very nice
Mahomes.
throw.
It was rolling left and threw it 67 yards to win the game. I mean, yeah, we don't need to.
He can
I
throw.
mean, if P.J. Walker's
He
playing
can
a
throw.
lot, the Bears are in hot water.
True.
All right, let's hit some odds and ends.
Odds and ends, odds and ends. Everybody, tell your friends it's odds and ends.
Is anyone else disturbed by that?
It's starting to disturb
There's
me.
something unsettling about it.
It's
I
that
want
third
more.
track, I think, that took it somewhere ominous. There's too many Colleens.
It feels now kind of like similar to like an ayahuasca trip, and you're running through a forest, and all these Colleens are chasing you, and they all have knives, all of them. But it's almost Colleen's head on a doll's body, chasing after you. Anybody else getting that
Little
vision?
Megan
I see where
action.
you're coming from. I think
Yeah.
we were keeping you off the hallucinogenics during the
I've
show.
been watching Wednesday on Netflix. I should add that. That is the best thing about that show. Like from a plot standpoint, it's not really geared toward me. The lead performance is excellent, as I've stated. The actor is tremendous, but it's Burton. I know you're a real cinephile, Mark. Burton
I'm not
has
a
been
big
doing it for a long time.
I'm not a big Tim Burton guy at all, but I would say I've watched the
What
first
a world he makes. He
first
creates.
2.5 episodes of Wednesday, and I'm with you. I think the show's got legs.
How about that Tim Burton, Greg?
Beetlejuice. Very rewatchable. Beetlejuice holds up, I would say. I've seen it recently.
I've actually not seen that, so I shouldn't. I'm not sure.
You've never seen Beetlejuice?
No, I mean, that's
No.
number one.
Because
that's a
that's literally
disgrace.
not my type of movie. So I went out of my way to not witness it.
Scissorhands, I could see maybe you wouldn't like
Scissorhands.
it, but
I'm
I
not
love
into
I like
Scissorhands, like-
Scissorhands.
You ever see Pee-wee's Big Adventure, his directorial
yes,
debut?
That I would say
One of the classics
that
of the
transcends
1980s.
Tim Burton. Though.
Big
That's
Fish, Big Fish, a little bit of meh.
Hey, ever hear of a
Give me a
little
break
movie
on
called
that.
Batman? He changed
I think
the
Tim
entire
Burton's,
world
Tim
of
Burton's
superhero.
was that not Batman 2? I believe
He
it
did
was an
1
absolute
and
disaster.
2.
Oh,
It was
have you
an
ever
absolute
heard of
disaster.
a little movie named Ed Wood?
You're thinking
I don't
of Joel
problem with Ed Wood.
Schumacher, who drove the Batman franchise into the ground.
I believe Burton's Batman. I literally did not like from it. The sequel, Batman 2, at least.
Hey,
It was a
He
mess.
did the original. He did the
The
original.
original's great. I have no problem with the original. Like, I'm not saying it's just like you. Like, don't tag me as a Tim Burton guy, which happens on this show. It's like I'm forcibly telling you.
What, you're tagged as a Tim Burton guy.
I'm just
often
saying
on this
that's where we
show?
could have gone, and
sometimes. Yeah, thank you, Justin.
Batman Returns
Thank
is
you.
very dark.
It's like, why can't we get a show under 77 minutes?
Yeah, where are you Burton heads out there? Come for me.
I don't want to hear about it, by the way.
Cooper Rush is back with the Cowboys. That's good. We like Cooper Rush. Devin Bush, the linebacker, and Julian Love, the safety, to the Seahawks.
They've been very active and
They
a lot of
have.
pretty good, like under the radar cheap moves. I
What
like
are
what
the
they've done.
Seahawks? I love that question. The Dolphins bring in old friend Braxton Berrios. He is all over the AFC East, and now it's time for Miami. The Steelers cut ties with Miles Jack, the former second-round pick of Jacksonville, who's now bouncing around a little bit. And that's
Well,
it.
they signed to London Roberts too, the Steelers, because you don't have Devin Bush, you don't have Miles Jack, so you're kind of starting over at that position.
Dolphins also got the old Patriots Pro Bowl punter Jake Bailey, who had fallen on hard times. A lot of receivers there. I could see Braxton Berrios having like one big moment in Miami.
I like
It'll be
Braxton
one.
Berrios. He's a charismatic guy. He also had the biggest drop of the season for New York in the end zone on 4th down in Minnesota.
That's part of the package.
With Mike White playing his guts out in that game, and cost him that game, and they never recovered after that. But I hope he does well.
He's like their fourth receiver. They got Cedric Wilson there too.
All right, before we take a break, let's check in with some best of moments from the opening press conferences across our league, starting with Jordan Poyer, who re-signed with the Bills.
I know I said some stuff about the taxes. I think we can all agree that we're like, what the hell? Like, yes. That shit. So, I mean, sorry. I said it. I said the truth.
I like that. How about Jalen Ramsey on the thoughts that he slipped a little bit on the field as a player in 2022?
Yeah, you gotta cut on the film now. You gotta really watch it. You gotta really watch it. You know, you don't become this successful, without actually doing good things on that field.
How about Jacoby Myers, now wide receiver of the Raiders, talking about a very infamous play with the Patriots at the Raiders' home field from last year. You know the one.
I'll be the guy that addresses the question about what happened here last year.
I was waiting on it. I was waiting on it. Thank you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Take us through, your thoughts on that play. Have any of your new teammates maybe already given you a little bit of crap about it? And how important is it for you to create new memories in Las Vegas to wipe that one away?
I mean, that was a humbling experience. As a man, as a football player, that was just tough. I knew what it meant to the team that I was on at the time, and so it really hurt me because, like I said, family is really big for me. So when I went through it, in the moment, my heart was broken, but days after, just seeing how guys kind of rallied around me, it built me up as a person. So now I know, like, whenever one of my teammates mess up, who I want to be in that situation,
That's a good answer.
That's a quality that I see in Gregg. You had a tough situation and you turn it into something positive. That's sort of I view that
beacon of integrity.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I loved Jacoby Myers. It was sad to see him go.
Yeah,
he was
I think he's maybe a better player than Juju Smith-Schuster, but whatever. How about Alan Lazard, new wide receiver of the Jets, an ongoing weird situation, doing a press conference talking about a quarterback that isn't actually on his team right now, but it is a strange situation. Leverage gate.
But they didn't seem like they were going to miss me too much. Had a strong inclination that it was going to be my last season there.
Interesting.
That's a little interesting. Lazard, we still haven't seen all the specifics, but got at least like an equal contract to any wide receiver.
Yeah,
he does have the traits.
It was a lot.
He looks like a number one receiver, but the numbers aren't any better than Jacoby Myers. That's
Well, it
for
might
sure.
have been in the demand sheet. Make him the highest paid.
A lot of these Packers players feeling like the team's not into them while they're playing for them. Not a good thing.
Not a great sign. How about Derek Carr, new face of the New Orleans Saints?
I just want to provide, leadership. Someone that's going to love their teammates.
I love this guy.
I'm not coming in here to try and take anything over. I'm not taking anything over. I'm going to be me.
And I'll block you on Twitter if you say anything against what I believe about. I just a little sensitive.
I think you hate Derek Carr.
I do not at all. I think actually I gave him appropriately immense credit for how he handled 2 seasons ago with the Raiders. They did him wrong, and I wish him well, but there's something about the Derek Carr at the podium thing that I find a little bit artificial at times.
I just double-checked. I doubt he was on top of my top 101 rankings, but I was worried after ranking Daniel Jones, I think, ahead of him one spot. But no, not blocked still.
He's like that guy that played Elvis in the movie.
Austin Butler?
Austin Butler, where it's like, where is this accent coming from? Is this how you talk? Is this an affectation?
I think it absolutely
was.
was.
Derek Carr? Well, no, in the movie,
yeah,
he does the Elvis voice.
Right.
And then he started doing the press junkets, Butler. I feel like I'm talking a lot of Hollywood lately. And he kept the Elvis accent. And then people started pulling junkets pre-Elvis, and he talks like a regular dude. And then they pulled the post-Elvis shoot, and now he talks like he lives in Graceland.
Well, I mean, I think that he got there's that. But there's Brian Kelly who did that when he went to LSU. He's like,
you know my theory about Derek Carr's accent.
You think it's fake?
I think there's some type of thing going on with it.
Where's he from?
Like Fresno?
Central California is kind of a different place. I don't know what the accents are like there, but it's different.
But sometimes, like that one was a little toned down, but sometimes he'll have like a twang in his voice, and it's like, where are you from, bro?
Well, it would be nice to see him traded to like the Northeast at some point, and then he adapts
I love being here.
That would be worth it.
He's in Bakersfield, I think, is where he's set up shop.
Okay. And finally, we have Orlando Brown, new left tackle of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Just, for them to believe in me as a left tackle was enough. And, man, I'm willing to put my life on the line for that.
Boom. Now I feel good about that guy.
Yeah, these guys want to play the position that they were born to play.
He was really making me laugh talking about how he met with Marvin Lewis in the pre-draft process. Supposedly the Bengals were going to take him potentially. That's what a lot of people thought. And he mentioned some memories of that process, including when Marvin Lewis asked him what the capital of Spain was, and his answer was Portugal. And he says, I really blew that one. He always wondered if that's why he didn't get drafted by the Bengals. I don't think that was
a question.
What is the capital of Spain?
Madrid?
Madrid,
That's a guess.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
One more. Jimmy G on how coming to the Raiders affects him from a sartorial sense.
It's really cool. It really is. Just get to wear all black. I mean, that's one of the coolest parts of it, I think. I know it sounds cliche.
And I'll tell you what, he did look good in black in that opening presser.
There was Schefter put out a picture of him with like his amazing suit and like holding the Raiders jersey, and his whole countenance and the way that his hair is done and the shades of his hair and everything, it kind of just all fits. And I don't know if it's going to fit on the field, but like he looks good in that Raiders getup. Absolutely.
And
we were debating if we have different feelings about Jimmy G's.
He got a custom
hotness,
Raiders suit. I mean, that had the little logo on it.
It looks great.
It was a pin.
Oh, that would make more sense.
But it did all look very Raiders-esque, and I think he had the look down.
And Daddy likes mommy. Daddy doesn't like daddy. But I could tell you that a man is
thanks
an
for clearing
attractive
that
man.
up. Yeah. I think I see him as like everyone seems to think he's a little hotter than I think he is, but who am I to judge?
Thank you, Daddy. All right, let's take a break and throw out some moves that would make sense. The National Football League's free agency period is underway, and now we, as analysts of the sport, are here to offer sensible transactions for those with a refined palate in such matters. What does that mean? Not sure. I think what I mean is don't just go willy-nilly here. Look at what the teams that what they've done so far, what are still, who's available or potentially available, what makes sense fiscally. Let's make the listeners smarter, Gregg, and that's why we're starting with you.
No, I think we should start with you because sometimes with these segments, I don't even totally know that there's going to be beautiful classical music and sensibility, and I feel like I want my leader, my host, my co-host.
Oh. You almost had it. You almost had me.
to show me where he's going with this.
All right. We could take it down now. All right, I'll throw it out there. A sensible transaction for those with a refined positional palate. The New England Patriots. All right, what have they done so far? We talked about they decided to move on from Jacoby Myers, and you don't think that had anything to do with the play, do you?
No,
right?
No.
But it was so embarrassing for Bill. Do you think there's part of him that would be like, I can't have anything that reminds me of that around me ever again? No.
I didn't sense it with this particular player, but who would know?
I mean,
that's a theory that hangs out there.
I mean, did they get rid of Ellis Hobbs after he gave up that touchdown to Plaxico Burress in the Super Bowl? Maybe. Did keep Rodney around. I mean, there's been some embarrassing moments,
How
but
about
that would be tough.
Justin after the pick six, Tennessee Titans in the AFC wildcard playoffs? Tom Brady wasn't around no more after that.
Nope.
True.
Who had that pick six? I know you know, Justin.
Logan Ryan, who went to play with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay.
Oh, interesting.
That was the friend where he was going to the puppy farm every week with the daughters.
Yeah, Logan
Ryan's
was a big charity revolving around saving puppies.
Right. And he's like, and I never told anybody about that until I retired, and then we needed some puff pieces about post-retirement.
No, it
who
was
I am as a man.
It was Logan Ryan's wife who did it. See, now you're just making up facts. It was Logan Ryan's wife who did it.
Sounds like a kind person.
He was playing the long game on the puppy.
He just knew that she would do that. Come on.
It was going to get out eventually. It's Tom Brady at a puppy mill.
You're just sitting on it.
So he's not going to say it, but he knows eventually it will get out, and they'll be like, and Tom never even said anything about it. It's like a double win. Anyway, so the Patriots, they have Juju in the building. They have Bill O'Brien as the OC. McCorkle Jones is back at quarterback. Mike Gesicki is signed, the former tight end of the Dolphins. That is definitely somebody that can make a play with the ball in his hands. But there's something missing here. And I mentioned it on the last show, but now I'm going to play it. And thank you to HBO NFL Films. This was a pregame conversation between Bill Belichick and a certain former All-Pro wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm glad we only have to play you every 4 years, man.
I love you, man.
You too. You too. What a career you're having. Miss half the season, still going to lead the league in receiving.
You know I do my job, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better, man.
I love Belichick.
I do my job. He's going to like that line.
I do love, as Belichick ages and as I age, I do love Bill more and more. I think him not going to the Super Bowl every year is helping as well.
Yeah, being like a walking 8 and 9 is helping your enjoyment.
But yeah, I think there's something to take out of that. That was this past season, and now they need a number one wide receiver to kind of cap off this like reboot of the offense. It makes so much sense for the Pats to send, second, third round pick, maybe a second, to bring in Nuke Hopkins. And then once you have Nuke in there, Greggy, I think as a Pats fan, you're really feeling pretty good then. You're looking at the roster and you're saying, there's my number one. Juju's a perfect, versatile kind of number two guy. You have now you're going to have Gesicki who can make plays at tight end. You trust the play calling with O'Brien, and he's comfortable in the system and knows Belichick and what he wants. And then you're saying Mac Jones, year 3, make that leap.
Yeah, you still have Hunter Henry too. So Gesicki, I think got something like $4 or $5 million a base salary. We haven't totally learned in some incentives. So he's the second guy. You get Devontae Parker off the roster. Basically, DeAndre Hopkins is a much better version to me of Devontae Parker, who's still there. Tyquan Thornton had some speed, second-round pick. Kendrick Bourne sitting around. Yeah, I don't think that would be their big weakness. And I totally agree. They can't draft receivers. They're famous for burning their second-round picks year after year. It's just been like a bad luck round for them. Let's just use it on a guy will have 1 or 2 years left.
Yeah, there's a little fly in the ointment, though, because first of all, I think like Mike Gesicki was recruited by Bill O'Brien to play at Penn State. So I see why that fit happens. I think it's an upgrade over Jonnu Smith. Bill O'Brien did not end things well with DeAndre Hopkins when he traded him to Arizona. I mean, I'm sure all that stuff can be pretty much fixed. But
yeah, but is it going to stop a deal?
I don't think Bill O'Brien's going to stop a deal, but I think also that it really, really fits. And I mean, I think when Belichick likes a player, it goes back to when he scouted him probably before the draft process, and he admires some of these guys so much that I think it still would be true. But the Bill O'Brien thing is just sitting out there as something that DeAndre Hopkins might think about. Sensible. Be sensible
Logical
about it.
that could be a fly in the ointment, but I would think Belichick. I mean, who would you rather have, Greg? DeAndre Hopkins or Bill O'Brien as an offensive coordinator?
You already have Bill O'Brien.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Bill's playing chess here. If he was looking at my offseason plan and he's like, I want Nuke on my team, would he bring in Bill O'Brien if he thought that would nuke a chance to get Nuke? I mean, these guys can make it up with one conversation and move on.
I don't know if he's playing mousetrap with the way he hired his offensive coordinator last year. I'm starting to wonder. But,
mousetrap.
I don't know. Let's try to think of a very basic
Sneaky great
operation.
Basic game. Actually, it does take a lot of work setting up tiddlywinks. That's
Pong.
Pong would have
Mousetrap, half the fun was, putting all the pieces together. Then it became less. It was more like you're going through the motions.
I like that.
All right.
that move.
Sensible?
I think so.
For refined palates?
Okay, now I didn't know if you were going to extend the whole thing.
No, I would give you a heads up if that happened. This is all about ball. Go ahead.
I'm going to talk about the Denver Broncos and their receiver situation. When a team puts receivers on the market, in this case Jerry Jeudy and or Cortland Sutton. Interesting that it's either or.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. History tells us eventually that guy's getting moved. It's like Darren Waller on the market last trade deadline. Eventually got moved. And now we're hearing reports, the Broncos were just getting offers from other people, and now they're thinking they wanted a first-round pick, plus they're going to hold on. Just put a pin in this. Let's come back around draft time, and let's make a trade for Jerry Jeudy, who doesn't have a long-term guaranteed salary like Cortland Sutton, so I think is a little more tradable. And there's a host of teams I could put him on. The Cowboys would be flashy, but you know who needs him even more and still plays in the NFL? How about the Carolina Panthers? You just traded your best receiver in DJ Moore. Your number one receiver right now is Terrace Marshall. You're going to have to play football. And I think Jerry Jeudy can fit a timeline of a young team getting better. He's still younger. Let's send a second round pick.
That makes a ton of sense. They're now the team without the number one. And I thought the Browns are a target. They are missing some people at that position. And it's what did you do all this for if you're not going to surround Deshaun Watson with a ton of weapons? They don't have a lot at wide receiver. But I think if the Patriots thing with DeAndre Hopkins doesn't happen, one of these Broncos wideouts might work there as well. It's I'm so with you that the Broncos, I don't care what they're saying, they have broadcasted strongly that these guys, I think Cortland Sutton just doesn't really fit what Sean Payton wants to some degree. It's we're moving these dudes.
Maybe Sutton would be the guy that they do move. And I know the Panthers just traded away a bunch of picks. They do have their first. They do have a second and a third, so they're not crazy short. But the Cowboys are another team here that would make some sense to wait it out. Doesn't seem they're ready to get OBJ.
I have my second one is directly connected, so I'll just do it real quick. I also had Jeudy. I want to see Jeudy move to a team where we could cash in on his potential, which I still think is very high, and it's been almost entirely untapped. Injuries have played a role, but a lot of quarterback dysfunction and organizational dysfunction as well since he was the first-round pick. And remember, it was him and Henry Ruggs in that draft that were, the buzzy wide receivers taken up top, and we know everything that went down with Ruggs. And Jeudy has been disappointing overall. I was looking at the Bills as a team that we've been talking about, how do you take Josh Allen now with Brian Daboll gone and you put too much on his shoulders and you add some more around him. And we've talked about Derrick Henry, and I don't know what's going on with Henry, and people connected Saquon to the Bills. And so far it's been pretty quiet. I know Isaiah McKenzie was let go this week. Jeudy being unlocked by a talent like Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs on the field with him is a very exciting thought. So it's sensible, but also some wish casting because I do want to see what Jeudy could do.
I like it a lot because I think Jeudy could suddenly have one of these seasons where it's that was a situation where Denver went through all this chaos, so we didn't see the player. I could see that, but I also think if you're the Bills, it's you view yourself as this season right now is Super Bowl or bust. That guy you get, because they do need that wideout, I think, has to be rock solid. It seems like a little bit of you're hoping he'd be that guy. You'd hoping he'd fit. He wouldn't be a disappointment in week 9 or 10.
I mean, they could be in the mix for any of the big names, I suppose.
But DeAndre Hopkins is one of those guys.
Odell Beckham. There's some thoughts Odell Beckham might not want to play in somewhere that cold.
That's the type of guy I want.
I'm with that. I'm with that. Let's make decisions on warmth. I'm with him.
Yeah, that's who I want. Those are the Warriors I want. Uh-oh, it's below 50. Not going to try as hard today.
I mean, if you've made your money, though, like where you live, I think that matters.
You know how short an NFL career is, Greg? They have like 10 years, even the great guys, maybe 12 or 13, to give it their all.
I want $20 million, but it must be in a tropical environment. Like
it's usually a bit of a red flag.
Yeah. All right, I got one for you here. I mean, this final chip to fall was Lamar Jackson. And I think about what happened back on March 28th, 1984, when the Baltimore Colts, in the middle of the night, we always heard about this, when we were young in the early 80s, like
Mayflower truck.
Exactly. You pack up the trucks, you move to Indianapolis, Baltimore's left out in the cold. Well, that doesn't help the two teams like each other anymore. But what if we have the odd poetical move of the Baltimore Ravens trading Lamar Jackson to the quarterback-needy Indianapolis Colts, who signed Gardner Minshew clearly as a backup and have done nothing else. They're sitting at number 4. You can give the Ravens that number 4 pick back, and they'll probably want a quarterback. But my one thing about the Colts sitting at number 4 and doing nothing is I think you got hopscotched by Carolina. They're obviously going with their guy. Then Houston's going with their guy. Arizona is a ripe team to trade that number 3 if someone else wanted to get up against the Colts. Suddenly, you are Chris Ballard once again looking at the 4th best guy on the draft board. You have Shane Steichen, who already did a great job with Jalen Hurts. You've got other pieces around him. I think there's a lot to like about the idea of Lamar Jackson staying in the AFC, going to a team like Indianapolis that is absolutely going to appreciate him after what they've been through since Andrew Luck retired. It gives them an immediate identity. They can found an entire offense around him. And Shane Steichen makes so much more sense to me with that situation than trying to start over with the 4th best rookie in this draft class.
Shane Steichen's really rocketed up like the reputation rankings, just for me personally.
Boom.
Just listening to the impact that he's had with everyone that he's worked with. And I don't think it's just smoke being talked. I would love that. Give me some of that.
Yeah, what's going on with Lamar?
I think is there a better fit than Indianapolis?
I heard a little bit of buzz through an unnamed, reporter that just just keep an eye. But
we are keeping an eye.
I know, but
we've all
it's just that there's something buzzing. But the fact that no one is reporting that nothing is reportable out there is shocking.
I think one thing that has changed in terms of how everyone is dissecting a potential trade. Initially, it was like, they put the non-exclusive tag on him, which means whoever is gonna, they will do the contract. And then the Ravens can decide, and if they decide they don't want to do that contract, they'll send the 2 picks. It's just as likely, if not more so, that it's just more a traditional trade.
Yep.
And in the case of the Colts, it's a perfect example because if they're giving you the number 4 pick, they're probably going to be like, we're not going to give you another number 1 after that. We'll give you a 1 and maybe a 2 and maybe a 2 the next year. But calm down about getting 2 number 1s off us if we're giving you a top 5.
Yeah, I think it works for both sides. And that's why I initially thought maybe what if the Texans with that number 2 pick, and if they weren't in love with a rookie, they were the kind of team that could go after Lamar Jackson and reboot everything. And they've got the whole, that kind of fits. You could be Baltimore and say, I don't want 2 1s from a team sitting down in the 20s. I want the chance to get another quarterback to put Lamar Jackson in the rearview mirror starting right now.
Sensible, Marc.
I'd like to think so.
Refined.
Yeah.
Greg, do you have another one? I'm tapped, so.
I do. I think that Odell to the Cowboys is so obvious that
it feels destined. It feels like it was destined years ago, and now it's now or never.
And yet it feels so necessary. They've invested on the defense, but I'm going to throw a different Odell location. I don't think there's that many, and I really do think he can make a difference as a quality 2/1, somewhere in between. He's not going to get that $20 million. Hey, Atlanta Falcons, you got to go win some ball games this year. Who do you got at wide receiver? You got Drake London. Great job. Nice pick.
Nice job by you.
More of a physical, red zone sideline guy. Very different, I think, in type to Odell Beckham. It's warm in Atlanta.
That's so important.
You play indoors.
Goddamn roof.
You play indoors, but it's warm when you go outside, too.
Sure,
I think that matters.
Checks that box.
Because I liked the Green Bay idea for Odell, just to be like, hey, Rodgers, now we got Odell. Eat it.
Right.
But I don't think he would want to go there. Chick-fil-A closing the stadium on Sundays, but it's open the rest of the week.
That's for God, by the way.
Yeah. Odell to the Falcons. Just your number 2 receiver right now, by the way, is 2021 sixth round pick Frank Darby.
Yeah, I think outside of
Seems
Drake
problematic.
London,
You don't have a receiver. I'm not trying to slight Mr. Darby. He's the only one that's been drafted by this regime that's on the roster other than London. So that's all I say. Sorry, Mrs. Darby.
The past 2 seasons on this podcast, I've been pushing against Atlanta when you guys have pumped them up, but they just don't excite me, even though it's not against Arthur Smith. It just they haven't seemed ready. This is the year where it feels like they should be ready to make a move.
Exactly.
And I'm just so annoyed that they're really going to go Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke, hypothetically. That's what year 3 all-in Falcons is, and then we're going to go get Odell Beckham at age 30.
I mean, that's better than not getting him.
How about you go get a quarterback?
How about you go get Jonnu Smith? I mean, that's not too exciting. You did get some defensive pieces. I like they brought back Lorenzo Carter for cheap. Onyemata's a nice signing. Jesse Bates, like Caden Ellis. Okay. You kept your offensive line.
Also, what if the Lamar Jackson thing changes a little bit and the Falcons get back into that? I think that there was this obviously opening bubble where no one was in on this guaranteed money situation, and then a team gets back in like the Falcons, they've got a draft pick.
Then I'd feel great about the Falcons. But if this is how it's going to go down, and then I'm supposed to get excited about this team because Beckham, off his second ACL reconstruction at age 30 after missing a year, is going to be the guy that unlocks Desmond Ridder.
It's suspicious.
Go sell it to somebody else.
Yeah,
that's all. Back after this. Anything else?
I've got a couple ideas. We don't have to delve deep into them. I will say one thing: that Brandon Beane, because we talked about the Bills adding a rock solid. We know what we get here. Said that the team has right now just James Cook and Nyheim Hines under contract. That they want to add a heavier power style running back to the roster. How about Derrick Henry for I'll say even a third. I think you can get him for maybe a fourth, but a third. And bang, you suddenly have an offense that can destroy people in cold weather. I like this one too. Just a couple of quick ideas.
Cold weather.
If the Lions wanted to start over a little bit with, we know there's this whole Jared Goff thing. I thought he played great last year, but what if they went and got Lamar Jackson and sent Jared Goff to the Ravens? There's that. How about this? The Packers, the minute they get rid of Aaron Rodgers,
the sensibility arrow is going this way.
That's not that crazy because they have the ammunition, number one, and they've got a team around them.
Moved in the deal to the Ravens. Okay.
I don't think you keep Jared Goff around in this situation. You're discerning his mood. You don't keep Jared Goff around.
It would be sad if Goff kept getting traded for quarterbacks that are way better than him.
Also just totally appropriate.
He keeps on making $20 million though. It's $30 million. What is he making this year?
A lot. Green Bay Packers. After Aaron Rodgers, they stick it to him by getting active in free agency. They signed Dalton Schultz to replace Robert Tonyan. They don't have a lot of tight end right now. And you make a trade to a Bucs team that's looking to dump guys. You get Mike Evans, Dalton Schultz. You've got the cap room. You've got the picks. I think it's very possible. I also like Adam Thielen to the Patriots. It just kind of fits.
I thought...
Why, because he's white?
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, that was the same thing. Andrew Van Ginkel visited them yesterday, and people were like, "Oh, that's a Patriots move," and it's just just say it.
We're saying it.
I thought Levante David. The Whites are at it again. I thought Levante David staying in Tampa is potentially a sign that Mike Evans will as well. And
I think David just wants to retire as a Buck.
They might be in the 9-8 and everything is great club as well this year.
Oh, they would love them some 9-8 if they could get there. They did keep a lot of their players. Jamel Dean, I was surprised, ended up staying there. For the most part, they kind of kept the defensive ship together. We do have some developing news. Let's do it. Justin Graber.
Oh, right. We're coming up with a new...
It's appropriate.
A new drop.
Drew Tranquil, who was one of the top 10 players still available on my list.
I don't know if this is it, but it is funny.
42 overall. The one player, Bill Barnwell, said I overrated the most, so I remember that.
Speaking of Billy Barnwell,
you know who disagrees with
on
Bill?
The show Monday.
The Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs signed him to a one-year deal. All right,
well, what will we possibly lead Monday's show with now?
Barnwell's on the show.
Yeah,
he's doing the whole show.
I was bringing it up.
Sorry, we're stepping all over that.
No. You did it for me. It was good. It was all coming together. Like Drew Tranquil. I think he's a nice.
Everybody. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, he's a nice little linebacker. That's all. Nice little combo there. Him and Willie Gay. That's good.
All right, good. He went on IR with a knee injury last year.
Blitzer.
Not so tranquil. That was not a tranquil period.
Big playmaker. Yeah, not tranquil. Causing a lot of havoc.
Good. Yes, Bill Barnwell will be on the show. I think we have to talk about what we're going to be doing with Barnwell, but I think a good move would be let's just read up on Bill's coverage of free agency and just riff off his thoughts.
Yeah, are they behind a paywall? I would hope not.
He is
they
part
are,
of
but
the
I pay
ESPN
for
Plus.
the paywall.
All right, then
so I could read. I honestly
forward them on to us, and no one will.
I would never do that to the worldwide leader. I have too much respect for what they do.
Then I'll come over to your house and read it on your laptop.
This is my most. Yes, you can do that. The respect I can pay Bill Barnwell. I have that subscription for Bill Barnwell.
Whoa.
I think ESPN should understand that that's probably true of a number of individuals because his columns are like completely next level, and that's why we're having him on the show.
Yes. Friend of the show. Northeastern University alum.
Paywall stretch in other areas, not when it comes to.
I'm sure there's a lot of content, but I don't care about their plus. I like NFL plus.
It's a great product.
Rosenthal all over during free agency.
That's a great product.
We also, have that mailbag. You should just go back and listen to whatever we answered a month ago.
You know, we should do another one.
We will.
Soon. NFL Plus, check that out around the NFL. And that's it for this week of shows, barring something insane happening. I don't know how much longer we have to keep tagging on that way, but...
like Lamar Jackson comes down at like 11:30 p.m. on St. Patrick's Day. That will go well.
All right, that's it. This is...
He a little weird.
Yes, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Have a nice weekend, and we will be back on Monday. Until then, you know what you got to do. Marc, do you want to say it tonight?
Heed the call.
Boom.